Hey there, folks. Steve Christensen here from the North American Ice Cream Association. It's fabulous to have you here. I think we're going for an all-time record 2 live streams this week. If you're watching on Facebook, you can kind of click down here and unmute right over here somewhere. We are, a great member benefit. We do our lunch and learn semi-regularly. We have a couple of very, very topical topics to talk about. That have been in the news recently about food safety. Before I jump in and share screen with our presenter and his crew, I just wanted to let you know of a couple of very important dates coming up. The first one is today, that being the 31st of July, is the last day that you can buy early bird tickets for ConeCon. I'm going to say that again, just so you can't say you haven't been told. Today is the last day you can buy early bird tickets for ConeCon. They're $100 less expensive for the 3-day ticket. And you can go to conecon.org, scroll right to the bottom of the page and get your discounted tickets. Also, August 6th, if you have submitted an ice cream or an entry for the ice cream clinic or the flavor of the year, August 6th is your ship date. You'll be hearing more from us in relation to that if you have put that in. But if you've got an entry in and you're packing pints, remember to put that on the calendar. August 6th is a big one. And then finally, the last day to submit your scholarship applications is September 2. And again, all of that information is on the website. We're not going to spend too much time on it today, because we do have a special guest, very important person with his crew here, Dave Dedman from the Chocolate Shoppe Ice Cream Company. How are you, my good man?
Doing very well. Thanks for having us.
Go ahead. Dave has been the past president and the past president of the association for about 17 years.
Feels that way.
It does. It's like being the president of the country. You go in all bright and bushy-tailed, and at the end of your term, you're grey, and the association has sucked the life.
That comes with working with you every day, Steve.
Right. Mm-hmm. In any case, it's nice to have you here, Dave, and your crew. We constantly monitor the airwaves of things that are happening within the industry. And we have seen last year and even just this season a bit of an uptick in food safety protocols that may have been breached, some Listeria outbreaks, some recalls. Dave, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your company history, and then I guess we can jump into some slides.
Absolutely. So I'm Dave Dedman with Chocolate Shoppe Ice Cream. I'm here with Eric Thompson and Alyssa, who both are part of our food safety team. So as I normally say, I'm the one that gets to talk a lot and not say too much. Eric and Alyssa really know food safety really well. They're the ones that run the food safety departments here in our company and can get down to really nitty-gritty specifics. What we're hoping to do today is just really kind of give you more of a starting point. So I'll give you a little overall about our company, why we have a food safety team, and what we do, and then dive into kind of a starting point to really start thinking about this for a lot of our members. So I'm Dave Dedman with Chocolate Shoppe Ice Cream. Sorry that the technology here is going to be a little weird. I'm not able to just flip from one screen to the other, so you're going to see this lovely scrolling that's going on. As long as everybody can see that, that's what's happening. Chocolate Shoppe Ice Cream, we've been around since 1962. We have a manufacturing plant. It's about 75,000 square feet. We have 4 company-owned ice cream stores. We do distribute our ice cream to lots of other ice cream stores and restaurants, cafes, not to grocery stores pint-wise, but 3-gallon cartons to ice cream stores. That's what we really focus on. And we do produce ice cream for other companies also. I kind of grew up in the ice cream world. I'm currently CEO of the company. Been here for a very long time, really long, but I had a financial background in between ice cream world with Price Waterhouse and working in New York and Chicago. So a little background on our company, but what we really want to dive into is, what are we going to try to get across today to start off learning about food safety. So what is food safety? Why is it important? How do I start? And what should I really focus on first? And if we have more time, we can dive into more subjects, but we thought that with the half hour, that this is going to be a really good start. And please, we like to do presentations interactively. So if you have questions, unfortunately, again, with technology, I can't see them, but Steve will relay the questions you do have to us, and we'll try and answer them basically in real time. So in general, we're going to start off by saying, what is food safety? So the USDA, the US government, defines that as conditions and practices that prevent the quality of food, the quality of food to prevent contamination and foodborne illness. Now, what does that really mean to all of us? Basically says you have to have a plan that you can implement in your ice cream production space to keep your ingredients, your equipment, your employees, and your facility free of contaminants. And contaminants lead to foodborne illnesses. What are contaminants? Dirt, allergens. Everybody goes to the big one, Listeria. That's just one. There are many different ones that actually make it into food right now that can get a lot of people sick. Basically, a lot of people call that coliform. That's the one that most people test for. And a contaminant called coliform is basically just an indicator that your area is not clean. So in generic terms, we call it dirt. Scientifically, it's called coliform. Anything to add, Eric or Alyssa, onto that?
Nope, sounds good.
Yeah. So
I should just jump in also, Dave. If anyone's got a question while Dave goes, feel free to type it in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on the Facebook group or our Facebook page, you can just simply type in a question and I'll relay them to Dave as he goes. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, no, that's great. So how do contaminants really get in? When you say, oh, keep it free of contaminants, contaminants get into your space from boxes, from utensils, from your hands, from your clothing, from your feet, just any way, and even air. The air can just have dust float around and land in your production space. And I am going to call it production space because I know that a lot of people have a retail store with a batch freezer in the retail store that may or may not be totally segregated from customers. Definitely other staff could just be in your back room and you're making ice cream in the back room of the store. Some of you have little commissaries that you are producing your ice cream in off-site. And some of us do have manufacturing plants that could have multiple ice cream machines and warehouses and freezers and stuff like that. So all of that in general, let's just call it your ice cream making space. So that's what food safety is. Why is it important? So we wanted to actually have this lunch and learn because recently a lot of food safety issues have been popping up, quite a few in the ice cream world. Just today, one came up with boar's head. Do you know does everybody know the name boar's head meats? They'll have turkey and ham and everything else. But again, it's just food. And they have a very large manufacturing plant. They are recalling 7 million pounds of meat today because of Listeria, and that is just one contaminant that can be in there. And if we think about it, Boar's Head is an enormous international company, and if they have food safety issues, all of us do, which we all do. So I just want to bring that one up. That one's in the news today. Just recently in the ice cream world, ice cream company called Totally Cool that makes a lot of ice cream cakes. They make pints for other people and lots of novelties. So the interesting thing about Totally Cool is that no customer actually got sick. It was an inspector that came into their manufacturing plant and took samples, what we call swabs. So they'll take a little surface sample of an ice cream machine or a table where you're filling ice cream on, or your floors or your drains, and it came back positive also for Listeria. And the FDA, the government, shut down Totally Cool completely and recalled everything that was produced in the last year at that manufacturing plant. That was less than a month ago. And again, that's a big company. They had lots of food safety. They passed lots of different audits, but yet it still can happen. So, so again, why is it important? Basically, you can hurt by making somebody sick. You can kill somebody, just like what's the company in Florida? That was the really big one. Big Olaf, 2 years ago. There was an operator that had one production facility. I think they had 2 or 3 batch freezers. They had about 4 different stores of their own, and then they wholesaled their ice cream to some other ice cream stores in the region in Florida. And they actually did kill somebody with a food safety issue, and another person lost an unborn baby because of the food safety issue. So those are really important things. The other thing is, if they shut your business down, the government shuts your business down for food safety, you can just go out of business and you could go bankrupt. So that's 2 of the big things. The most important, of course, you want to be keeping everybody safe who's eating your product. So what we're hoping to do is say, how do we start even to develop a food safety plan? There's lots of different areas to look at that you can get information. I'm guessing that most of you at least have a Serve Safe certification. So that's kind of the base knowledge of how to run a restaurant. And it's we've had it at convention, Serve Safe classes. It's pretty much nationwide, standardized food safety classes for anybody who's operating a restaurant or an ice cream store. That's a great place to start and learn about what are the scary things that can be out there that can make it into your ice cream and potentially harm somebody. We want to try and take it a little step further, is developing actually a food safety plan and a process to make sure that what you are doing every day in making your ice cream, you're making it in a safe way. So other places to take a look at, the IDFA, which is the International Dairy Foods Association, sounds really big, but it's idfa.org/safe ice cream, is a huge amount of information, even templates on how to start a plan, food safety plan, a template on making sure you're tracking, training your employees. That's a fantastic website that gives you examples on how to do it and templates to start. When you get into some of the bigger information, all super important, foodsafety.gov is run by the CDC. A lot of great information on what food safety is, what are the foodborne illnesses, what's out in the market that can get into your ice cream. FDA.gov has the Food Safety Modernization Act website, and it's called FSMA for short. Now, any of us that make ice cream and sell it to anybody else besides a customer in our retail store is technically wholesaling ice cream. If you sell it to your local grocery store, if you sell it to a local restaurant or another ice cream store, if you resell it and then if you sell it and they resell it, then you technically are wholesaling ice cream. And by the definition of the federal government, you need to be following FSMA. Now, I'm going to say that, saying you have to do that, but I also am going to say, the FDA is incredibly understaffed, and will they ever show up at your doorstep if you are not a larger manufacturer? Highly doubtful, highly doubtful. But what we always do encourage is say, get that information from the FDA.gov and start reading through it. It's a fantastic, it's an easy to use website and a huge amount of information about food safety and how do you do it. If you want to go really bigger, the World Health Organization, they have a lot of food safety stuff. But most importantly to Steve and the association, it's the North American Ice Cream Association, which I'm guessing you're members of if you're on this podcast or this Lunch and Learn. If you're coming to a convention, we have the Dairy Food Safety Plan coaching workshop on Tuesday of convention, which is a huge thing to attend and learn how to start developing and implementing your food safety plan. So, all right, there's all the information. We have about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to try and dive into how would we recommend you start in your store. If you have an ice cream store with a batch freezer in the back room or an offsite batch freezer, here's some of the things that we would say is the best thing to start. Write procedures to tell employees how to, and then here's the whole list: properly clean all your equipment, properly store your equipment, properly store your ingredients, keep proper personal hygiene, keep your production space free of contaminants, keep allergens separate from other ingredients. So here are the really big, high level things that we would recommend just start with. There's probably a list of 50 more that I can add to this, but if we're going to walk into an ice cream store and say, here's how you start: properly clean all equipment. What does that mean? Well, if you went to ServSafe, my guess is you know that you should wash, rinse, and sanitize everything. And that is correct. Wash, rinse, and sanitize using the proper chemicals for washing and following the procedures based on that chemical recommendation, like how many parts per million in your water of the chemical to clean. Rinse it, and same thing for sanitation. Most of us use bleach for sanitation. You can use that, but just follow to make sure that it is properly at the proper level of bleach in the sanitation tank. And then most importantly, you do all of that, but you have to document that you did it. You would have to document that you measured out the cleaning solution, you measured out the sanitizing solution, and you followed procedure and you document that. So in a food safety program, documentation really is the thing that tells any other inspector that you actually did it. And what we always say here is you write down what you're going to do, you do what you wrote down, and then you document that you actually followed your procedure. So same thing with properly storing your equipment. Just because you have a batch freezer and you cleaned it, you want to make sure that it air dries. So you want to make sure that you can wash, rinse, sanitize it, and then put it on a shelf that all the components will air dry relatively quickly. Now, I will highly recommend that even though you wash, rinse, sanitize today, you air dried, you wash, rinse, sanitize tomorrow morning, because most likely you have a shared production space if you're making ice cream in your retail store. So anything and everything that walked by all of those pieces of equipment during the day or during the night when they're sitting on a shelf could have easily contaminated that piece of equipment. So before you start production in the morning, wash, rinse, sanitize it again, and document that you did that and you have clean equipment. Properly store your ingredients. What does that mean? Well, really from a food safety standpoint, it means that anything that needs to be in a cooler is actually in a cooler, and the cooler is monitored for the proper temperature. Depending on what you want your cooler to be, between 33 and 40 degrees, make sure you state, yes, I have these parameters that'll say, I want it between 33 and 40 degrees for my cooler. And then at least once a day, we would recommend more than that, you actually document that it is. You look at the temperature gauge and say, yes, at noon, guess what? My cooler was at 38 degrees. And you can document that. Now you know everything in your cooler was safe. So if you ever get inspected, the inspector is going to say, how do I know your cooler was running properly? And you just pull out the sheet that shows all of your times and temperatures and say, it was, here we go. And you as the manager or the owner sign off that yes, indeed, that was correct and everything was good. So that's what we would recommend for storing your ingredients. Now, everything I'm talking about, you actually need to write out your procedure and have that as a procedure written in a manual, your food safety manual. So anybody coming in, you can train, but you can also show an inspector, here's exactly what we do to make sure our equipment is clean, our ingredients are clean, and of course now, personal hygiene. What does that mean? It means clean hands, restrained hair, wearing gloves if you have a glove policy in your production space. Proper clothing. Clothing can carry lots of contaminants. So if you are out there just throwing the trash out by a really disgusting dumpster at 90 degrees and walk back into your space and you went and picked up a bag of ice cream mix and you have to grab it and hold it close to your shirt because they wobble and you have to get that little tab out of the nozzle, you just contaminated the outside of that bag. You put your hand on it, you pour it in, you literally could have just contaminated your ice cream mix. So have a written procedure of what to do if somebody goes out and takes the trash out to a really gross dumpster at 90 degrees where everything is festering and then gets put back into production. I know it seems like a pain. I know it seems like it's overkill, but that's exactly what inspectors will want to see if you have a food safety plan. And they will ask, well, what's your procedure to put somebody back in service after they took the trash out? Well, here's our procedure, and this is how we follow it. And on that, you have to prove that you trained your employees on that. That's a really big thing. So we talked a lot about keeping your production space free of contaminants. Contaminants come from everywhere. Lots of people are super worried about Listeria. And yes, that is the one that shuts you down immediately. I would say, and Eric and Melissa, please correct me, probably 95% or more Listeria come in on your feet. It's naturally occurring in grass and dirt. I think statistics say that 35% of the dirt out everywhere has Listeria. So if you walk through grass, have dirt on your feet, chances are your feet have Listeria. Now, how do you keep that out of your production space? Well, if it's your feet and you have a common area where people are walking back and forth through your production space, if it's in your retail store in the back room, what we really are going to suggest is to try incredibly hard to mark off a space that is production space on the floor and do not allow anybody in that space without properly cleaning their feet off. Now, how do you do that? Well, there are a lot of different ways. I think the easiest way we came up with for an ice cream store is you can get, what was it called there?
Quaternary ammonia compound.
So like if you buy your any ingredients from like a Cisco or one of the big food safety places, I'm sorry, they will have quaternary ammonia spray. You can use it as sanitizer on surfaces. You can also use it as a sanitizer on your feet. Spray the bottom of your feet. That will kill Listeria before you walk into your production space. Now that space might only be a 10 by 10 space or a 7 by 7 space, but do everything you can to keep people out of that and touching the equipment and the floor of your production space area in your store. And that's going to help tremendously to cut down the risk of a contaminant entering it.
Dave, some good questions here. Elizabeth asked, does all of this apply if I just sell soft serve?
Yes. Now, it's a little bit different because your production space literally is your soft serve machine. But everything we have talked about, from keeping the machine clean, your equipment wash, rinse, sanitize, whatever your schedule is. I know a number of soft serve machines can go 1, 2, 3, however many days you have in your procedure, but write down your procedure. So if you say every 48 hours, we will drain our machine, wash, rinse, sanitize it, and put it back together, write that down, follow it, and document it. It's relatively simple. Once you understand, all you need to do is write down your procedure and follow it. Now, the next step would be prove that it actually works. That's called verification, which is a whole next step in food safety, is verifying what you are doing actually works by keeping your product clean. But direct to the question, I would absolutely follow all these procedures, even if it is a soft serve machine. Now,
another quick question.
Yep.
Very faithful association member, Hard Rockin' Daryl Schiff.
Yeah.
Has Listeria ever been found in small shops or small ice cream shops?
Has Listeria been found in small ice cream shops? I hate to answer a question by asking a question. Do you ever think a small ice cream shop has been swabbed for Listeria? And I would say unless you did it yourself, Daryl, nobody came in and swabbed your shop for Listeria. So I would say it's there. Like we have a large, a manufacturing plant here. So in our entire space, we fully assume and know that Listeria is in our warehouse, probably in our coolers and our freezers, on the floor. We search for it by swabbing, but what we try to do is make sure Listeria never enters our production room. So we have that barrier in our production room, and it's trying to keep everything out of the production room because it will occur. Everybody's in and out of warehouses, truck drivers, our delivery drivers, our warehouse crew, they're in and out all the time. So they're tracking stuff in and out all the time. In a small ice cream store, I'd say the exact same thing is happening. Your goal is to keep it off of your equipment and out of your ice cream, off of your hands, off of your equipment and out of your ice cream. But if you are questioning it, you can get a hold of us offline, and we can try and talk a little bit more about Listeria and how you can swab for it and because that's a huge program that's important to truly try and find it. So we make sure that we are taking the swabs in the area where we think it is. Because it's easy to say, oh yeah, no, it's not going to be on this table I just cleaned. It won't, but it might be on the feet of the table because you've never cleaned the feet of the table. And that's the important part. Any other questions?
Nope, not at this stage. Doing a good job.
So what we have been really trying to talk about is here are some of the top end procedures that you should start with, but document it. Write down what your procedure is, train your employees on that procedure and document that you trained it, and then document, which just means, you can initial every single day that you did this procedure, and that's documenting that you did the procedure or followed the procedure. That speaks volumes to any inspector. If they come and inspect, or hopefully never, you have a foodborne illness and you have to put that out there in the media, then you can be rest assured every inspector from everywhere will come and descend upon your space. If you have this documented and you're following it, that helps tremendously. So again, a half hour has gone really fast, so we're going to keep on rolling with this. We came up with what would we focus on first if we were starting from scratch in an ice cream store environment that has a batch freezer. What are some things that we would start with first? Not in any particular order here, but we want to just make sure that you had a good starting point. As you can tell, this lunch and learn should be basically a day and learn because we could spend 8 hours doing this, and maybe tomorrow too. But anyways, to begin with, like I was trying to say before, can you somehow in your space designate an ice cream making only space and keep everybody out of it except for the people that need to make ice cream? Designate that space, mark it off, train people not to go in it. If they do go in it, train them how to go in clean. So keep my ice cream makers out of it. Shoes carry lots of bad things. Clean them before entering your ice cream making space. I would say all of us, it would do us justice to clean all of our shoes and feet for anything behind the counter and in the back room. Almost impossible. Because in an ice cream store environment, you're just walking everywhere. So the thing here is to try and keep it out of your ice cream making space. Like I say, big things, write down your procedures on how to clean all your equipment and clean your space prior to production, clean your equipment prior to production, clean your space and equipment post-production all the time, and document that you did it. The documentation, I know I'm a broken record there, but it definitely saves you down the road if you have any issue whatsoever, because you can prove that you followed your procedures. All right. We tried to land on 30 minutes and I talked a lot. There's 30 minutes. Scratching the surface here, everybody, but the list of resources, they actually are really great. They're pretty easy to read nowadays. And just start somewhere. Like I'm going to be at convention. If everybody's going to be at convention, we have a team of probably like six or seven people from our company coming. Just get a hold of us, find us. Obviously, email me. And if I can't answer it, I'll get to Eric and Alyssa because really they're the experts in this part for our company. It's very important, especially with the fact that more and more ice cream companies are having recalls and issues related to foodborne illness. And it's just a matter of time before it starts trickling down to some of us smaller producers and retail stores that have batch freezers. So any other questions?
Dave, I had a couple that were submitted early. And again, if you're on live and you'd like to throw a question in the comments here, we'd love to be able to answer them for you. Dave, we get a lot of questions about how often or even should people have their mix tested. Any recommendations on that, just so far as what their base mix is? Is it once a year? Is it throughout the production season? What do you think about that?
So well, I'll answer and then I'll see if Eric and Alyssa have a different opinion. I think what I would recommend is your mix is being made by pretty large ice cream dairy companies that have what's called their COAs, their certificate of analysis, which test every batch of mix already. So what I would do is ask your mix provider to give you the COA, which is the certificate of analysis for the batch of ice cream. You have a lot code on your batch of ice cream, so they know exactly what lot code you're talking about. They have tested it. They have to before they can release it, and it has to be clean of labs before they can release it to you. So to make you feel better, ask for that. They can email it to you. They have it all on file, and they should be able to email it to you in 15 seconds. So instead of you spending the money and time testing your mix, just have them forward the COAs to you. What I would say is, I mean, here we have to test every single flavor and every batch of ice cream every day. We have coliform testing and standard plate count testing. We do not do Listeria testing on finished product for our brand. We do for a couple of ice cream companies we make ice cream for, but we put all of our efforts on Listeria on preventing it and do a tremendous amount of interior swabbing tests. But what I would recommend with anybody out there for testing, test your finished product. Make a batch of vanilla, make a batch of Oreo, draw a pint off, and either send it to a lab, depending on where you live. Again, Alyssa was just telling me that you could set your own lab up now, which is just a little bit of an incubator. You'd want a little stainless steel table that you can keep clean. And anybody in biology class, remember the little Petri dishes? Basically, you put a little finished product ice cream on the Petri dish, put it in the incubator for 24 hours and see if it grows. Now you can do all that for less. You could set it up for less than $200, and then your test is $5 to $7 a test.
You can do an incubator on Amazon.
Yeah. And again, if somebody really wants to do that, just let us know. We can help you through that process to find the equipment and buy that equipment and do some tests. But finished product in this scenario is much more important, I would recommend, than testing your mix. Your mix company already does that. Would agree?
As a precaution, if you're gonna test finished product, I would also test a sample of the mix just to make sure it didn't come from the mix. But I agree with Dave. Test your finished product, and that'll verify if your equipment's clean.
Yeah.
Good. And I love the fact it almost seems like people are a little, I don't want to ask questions, or I don't want to bring up because I don't want it to appear as though I'm having a food safety problem. But the grand scheme of things is, and I love the way that you framed it up, that just assume that, I mean, every store has the same challenges. We're not, just because you ask a few food safety questions doesn't mean that everyone's looking at you because you have unsafe product. it's one of these elements of the industry that everybody has to grapple with.
And we all have food safety problems. We have food safety problems, and we have a team of like 5 people in our lab in food safety. And every single day we test every single product we produce, and we will definitely get little flare-ups of coliform or standard plate counts, and we have to determine why and where it came from. And 99% of the time, it's a cleaning issue. We didn't clean properly, and there was a little residue that sat overnight, and we didn't get it clean before we started tomorrow. Every once in a while, it's an ingredient, but probably 95% of the time, it's us not cleaning properly.
Right. Another thing too, Dave, I was going to say and pitch for, it's a little bit late this year, but the clinic is a great member benefit to send your vanilla chocolate or strawberry ice cream in. It's sent up to Cornell. They do all of those tests. They rate your ice cream. And Sam Alkane and a number of Cornell people are there at convention to actually answer questions about your specific product. So a plug for the clinic. Some heavy hitters on the call today. Kelly Larson, current president of the association.
Currently making ice cream. Hopefully you're making it safe, Kelly.
How do you recommend cleaning shoes in a small shop?
How do you recommend? Well, the best thing to do, if you absolutely can do this, it's best to actually only to change your shoes before you go into your production space. Even if like I said, if you mark off 10 by 10 in the back room and you have a different set of shoes, take your shoes off. And what you're trying to do is minimize. Remember, it won't ever eliminate 100%, but that's the best thing to do. Have your set of production shoes across the other side of the line and step into them and go and never walk out. There's the ideal if you can do that. Generally, that's not something you can do in a smaller shop because you're running around, you're grabbing mix, you're grabbing stuff off a shelf for ingredients. But like we had mentioned, get a little spray bottle of quaternary ammonia, spray the bottom of your shoes. It kills everything. I mean, it's not bad to spray your floor either, because really what you're trying to do is kill the stuff that's on the floor, so you don't transfer it somewhere else in your building.
Yeah, and she had a follow-up comment. What if delivery drivers deliver into that room? That's where, again, it's this constant battle of trying to stay ahead of potential contaminants, right?
Right, it is. And and really what you're trying to do is eliminate in a perfect world, but generally we're just trying to minimize the risk. And if somebody delivers into that space or into that room, a delivery driver, one of the best things to do is you could have a water bath there with bleach in it. So the delivery driver steps in that as they enter the room. Those are a little scary because a lot of people don't pick them off the floor. So underneath them get really gross and full of stuff, or change out the water bleach solution often enough and it just kind of evaporates and you think you're safe, but you're not. So, or after they enter the room, clean your floor, mop it and sanitize it really quick.
Yeah.
And that's what I would recommend in that situation. To kind of touch back on what Steve said about the clinic and getting your ice cream tested there. I mean this in a scary but positive way. Over the past few years, we've had upwards and pretty close to an average of 20% of entries getting pulled from competition because they didn't meet food safety codes. Of the NICRA members that knew they were going to submit it for testing. So I meant that more in the sense of if you're worried about it, everybody's worried about it, and all of us have problems with it. So an open discussion is the best way for all of us to get better. So don't ever be afraid to ask a question because people think you're not making safe ice cream. Ask the question because all of us need to learn from each other to be better.
And it's better to know if you do have an issue.
Definitely. So it doesn't get to the market and hurt somebody.
Yeah. Well, Dave and crew, thank you so much. This has been great. It will kind of live in perpetuity on our Facebook page. We'll download a copy of it and put it on our website. Again, some great resources safeicecream.org. We have a food safety page actually on the association website that has a lot of those links as well. And again, another plug for the Artisan Food Safety course, which they're only taking 50, and I think they've got nearly 20 signed up for. It's a full day. It's the day before the conventions on the 12th. Honestly, it's probably one of the best values of money. I think it's like $50 to go. It's one of the best investments you'll make. A little bit of time, a little bit of, extra hotel night. But the information there, you'll come away with feeling much more confident that you're on the right track when it comes to the process of food safety. Thank you again, Dave. Last comments? Final bullet point? I know you love your takeaways.
I'm leaving that for you, Steve. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Okay.
Hopefully see you in Savannah.
Absolutely. And again, if you have any questions on food safety, on anything in relation to the process, please visit our website, contact the office. We'll put you in contact with Dave and the team or whoever you would like. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and hopefully we'll see you in Savannah. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.